If you're anything like me, mixing your first song can be incredibly frustrating. So frustrating to the point where you just want to throw your laptop out the window and invest in a punching bag because you're done. You're done. You're done. I've been there many times. Many times. And that's one reason I started this channel, to educate my younger self and those who are like my younger self, who knew nothing and made a lot of mistakes along the way. So hello there, young Kasni Beats. Listen to this video and it will change your life.
Because now I am wise.
So that's why I'm going to share with you today 5 mixing tips that I had to learn the hard way so you don't have to. Let's dive right in to number 1. Sound selection is key. It is key. It is key. Say it with me. Say it with me.
Okay.
It is key. It is key. It is key. Nice. Before you even start, find the right sounds. This is what took my mix from amateur to professional. And I can tell you that in confidence because literally people said my music was amateur. My friends said it was amateur. I'd be like,
Yo, check this out. Listen to this beat. It's dope.
and then they'd be like, yeah, it's good.
Why don't you like it?
Well, you know, it's kind of amateur.
They made me cry. I cried. Yeah, I went home and cried. It was absolute trash. I didn't think so at the time. But I kind of trained my ear to understand that that was trash. My sounds selection was not that great. And I used a lot of Ableton stock sounds, which are not bad. They're not bad, but it's not only using good quality professional sounds, but it's also finding sounds that fit your genre. So you can't use a house kick drum and like a lo-fi type beat. You know what I mean? So you need to figure out what kind of song you're making. Go listen to songs like that and then find sounds that fit that style. Otherwise, it's not gonna sound great. It wasn't until I invested in sample packs that my music reached the next level. So that is the biggest thing, is just find good quality sounds. Sound selection is key. Sound selection is key. I'm gonna make a song on that. Number 2, less is more. Don't just throw a bunch of instruments in your mix thinking that it's gonna make it better, because it doesn't. It can make it worse. I learned that the hard way. There was one song I was working on that was kind of like a cinematic-y piece, and I wanted it to be epic. You know, I wanted to have like the stomps in it, and the crowd going, yeah! You know, that kind of thing. Trumpets and guitars, and I just kept throwing. I remember I found like a stomp kick, and then I was like, oh, we need more stomps. So I just found like 3 more stomp kicks, and I layered like 5 stomps. I made many different versions of the song, so I went up to version 6. And at version 6, when I listened to it in my car, I realized it was absolute garbage. It was terrible. I was like,
Why? How?
I was making it better. I added a bunch of sounds that was making it better. No, you made it worse. A big mistake that I've made in the past is kind of going in blind and just throwing things where I think they need them. But I don't recommend doing that. Really, you don't need much. You need to understand frequencies and space, so you don't want to have frequencies clashing. You need to think of it in terms of arrangement. So when you go into music production, think about your arrangement, okay? If I have a guitar, what is going to complement that guitar with respect to like your frequency range? And this is something that I have been learning along the way, so it's kind of something a little newer to me too. You want to go into it with a little more thought so you don't mess everything up and have to deal with it later. Understand what needs to go where versus going in blind. Okay, and that brings us to number 3. Put your effects like reverb and delay on your sends and your groups. I started off with a kind of crappy laptop. RIP. I didn't even know what a send was. I saw it in Ableton and I was like, I don't know what that is, so I ain't gonna mess with it. So I'd put all my effects on each individual track. If I did a bunch of vocal tracks, I'd put reverb on everyone, and my computer crashed a lot. I just get frustrated and want to throw it out the window and invest in a punching bag. Yeah, so don't make that mistake that I did. There are times where I do put reverbs on individual tracks, just depending on what I'm doing, but typically I'll have your reverb and delay, and you just send all your tracks there. So number 4 is EQ your reverb. This is something that I sort of struggled with a little bit. There was one song that I was producing early on and it sounded bad. all of the songs sounded bad, but this one in particular sounded really bad. It was very muddy. There was a frequency, it was just bad. So I went through every single track trying to find that stupid frequency that was sounding bad. And it turned out to be the reverb because I didn't EQ the reverb. Don't do that. I would say make sure you cut off the low end and probably the high end too. But I think it was like a mid frequency that was clashing with the sounds. So just make sure that you're EQing your reverb because that can make a big difference in making your mix sound very clean. EQ reverb! EQ reverb! Last but not least, number 5, make sure you take breaks because that can also have a detrimental effect on your mix, as I have learned many times. You need to keep a fresh ear. So it's good to maybe sit down for a mixing session for, I would say, I don't even know, probably like an hour maybe, hour, 2 hours. I don't know if I'd sit down for more than 2 hours and then just take a break. Come back to it like the next day. If you're mixing for a long time, you're gonna start doing things that are actually gonna make it sound worse than it did before. So don't do that, just take a break. And also don't do this. Don't export your track and then listen to it on the drive to work every single day for a week, because then you're definitely not gonna finish it. I do that too much and I have learned to stop doing that. I stopped doing that. RIP to that song. It will never see the light of day because I listened to it too many times. And now it will never be finished. If you want to finish your songs, freaking take breaks because you're gonna get burned out. Trust me, that is not fun. It is not fun to get burned out on a weekend from mixing and then go back to work burned out from the weekend. Take breaks, do a little bit at a time. You're gonna be good. Learn from me and good luck on your journey of music production. That is the end of the video.